Hello everyone. For 8 of the last 9 years, I have worked as a tax collector. I want to share my experience and insight with you from my perspective from what I have done, because there has been a lot of talk in the news about the new tax plan and tax proposals from the president, and I think that there's always a lot of talk about whether or not to raise or lower taxes, but I never actually heard feedback from those who enforce taxes. I think that this perspective and opinion might be important in the public discussion. We were told in school, and I remember from high school economics class, that taxes are necessary because they go to building roads, schools, bridges, hospitals, and paying for emergency services. But this is far from the truth. I don't care where you stand politically. You can say that universal health care is a good thing, or that we should have more military or infrastructure spending. But if you are an American, I'm willing to bet you don't actually know what the government spends or what it spends on. I want everyone to know that they should be checking the Office of the Congressional Budget. I'm going to cover how is the federal budget broken down and how spending by the federal government has changed over the last few years. Then I will share why I don't think raising taxes will be a very helpful solution in managing our budget. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment down below. So first of all, why am I making this video? I got an alert on my phone that the budget deficit for March 2021 was $660 billion. That is more than the entire year's deficit of 2016, according to the Congressional Budget Office. And that was not very long ago. President Biden says that he wants to raise taxes for the first time since 1993. So why do we need to raise taxes? What does the federal government actually spend money on? Wikipedia will have you believe that the biggest chunk of our money goes to military spending, and this is what most people think. But I have added up the budgets for previous years, and according to Congress, that is not where they actually spend the most. I have taken the infographics from 2013 to 2019, that which I could find online, but it's difficult to find every year prior to 2015 on the website of the Congressional Budget Office. I used the infographics as a quick way of referencing the information so that I can get the information out without having to go through literally thousands of pages of this stuff on my own. So let's take a look at the budget. I won't get into discretionary spending versus non-discretionary spending because I want to keep it simple, but it is broken down as follows. Social Security. You've probably heard of that. When you reach a certain age, you may be eligible to receive these payments from the government. I also had a friend in college who was visually impaired who received Social Security payments. Medicare is one category. Medicaid is another category. We know that this is a government subsidy for healthcare, but people usually forget which is which. Remember, silver hair gets Medicare, underpaid get Medicaid. So older people get Medicare and lower income people get Medicaid. Defense, obviously that's the military. Interest payments, that's the interest that's paid every year on the national debt. We have to pay the interest every year or else we default on the debt. Non-defense, this is for stuff like transportation, education, housing assistance, NASA, and so on. Other, this includes federal, civilian, and military pension, tax credits, and social programs such as SNAP, which some of you might know as food stamps. Now, when we look at revenue and outlay, that means the money we get from taxes and other things such as national park admissions fees for revenue, and outlay, which is what we spent. We continue to spend more than we have, and this trend continues to grow. When we subtract revenue from outlays, we get the budget deficit. The deficits fluctuate throughout the years, but they have been going up. The deficit for 2019 was almost double the deficit for 2015. This is before the tumultuous year of 2020, where Congress spent a record amount of money due to unprecedented circumstances. I heard estimates that the deficit for 2020 alone was 100%, but I don't actually know because those numbers are not out yet. So what do we do about this? Well, I can tell you something that won't work, and that is to raise taxes. I have two reasons for saying this. The first is that it really doesn't matter what the tax rate is, and whether or not there are loopholes. For the last 70 years, the federal government has received between 15 to 20% of gross domestic product annually in tax revenue. It cannot realistically go higher, and tax revenue on an annual basis averages at around 17% of GDP. The second is that you cannot get blood from a stone. I know what people think, that we can just tax the rich, and while that is technically true, it grossly misrepresents the situation. You see, rich people can afford a $400 an hour tax accountant, the kind that my accounting professors were, one of whom was a partner at Ernst & Young, another of whom was a tax attorney. You get the idea. If you have tens of millions of dollars, you're going to have the best tax advisors in the world helping you exploit loopholes in the system. This can include investing in things that are advantageous, such as carbon offsets, or making a donation to a nonprofit organization such as Doctors Without Borders. You can tax the rich, but even if they don't flee the country, they will not pay as much as politicians and the media would advocate for them to pay. What I can tell you from my professional experience is that those who know how to run a business and make money tend to have better help with their accounting and finances. They will know who to hire or who to pay for all of this stuff. I don't get very many cases on wealthy individuals or highly profitable businesses. There are some who have tax problems, and sure, there are even some well-known big companies that don't comply with the law. But generally speaking, if you have money, you don't hear from me. Most of the investigations for delinquent taxes that I get are for small local businesses. They can be restaurants, grocery stores, hair salons, plumbers, and so on. Many of them don't keep thousands of extra dollars in their bank accounts. If they were to be assessed with more taxes, then the government would get someone like me to go after them. There was a statistic that I heard about restaurants in March 2020 that most restaurants only had enough cash to operate for 3 or so days. I believe it because I see their records and I know what they have in the bank. If a restaurant or small business owes money in taxes, I can seize their bank account, but what if they don't actually have any money in there? How would assessing much more in taxes help get more money if the business on which the assessment is made does not actually have any money? This works the same for businesses and individuals. I have seen both. If there's no money, then there's no amount of taxes that can be assessed to magically create more money if there isn't any. So, if we can't get more in taxes by forcing people and businesses to pay, then the only real solution to the problem is that the government needs to spend less money. I'm sure that having seen the figures on what the government actually spends on their programs was a bit surprising. And I am pretty sure that you might have strong opinions about some of it. We can always borrow more money until people are no longer willing to lend money to us. All of this spending that we're doing now only creates a problem that future generations will have to address. Wherever you stand, I'm sure that you will probably agree that robbing people who have yet to be born is the wrong thing to do. I hope this was informative. Please be sure to check back in the future for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.